Now we're going to look at how to measure water clarity, which is done using a clarity tube. Water clarity is a visual measure of how much sediment is suspended in the water column. The easiest way to collect your sample is using a bucket. Face upstream into the flow and collect at least 4 litres. Because you have to collect your sample from the main flow, if the water is too deep or too dangerous to get in with your bucket, you can use a pottle on the end of your mighty gripper to collect that sample. Just collect multiple samples and put it into the bucket until you get the amount of water that you need. If you collect a sample using a pottle, just make sure that you collect it from under the surface of the water to avoid getting any floatables. Now you have your sample, check that there's nothing floating on the top, take that out, and then pour your stirred sample into your clarity tube, filling right to the top. With your tube filled, now put your magnet into the tube, pull the magnet apart, put the magnet in with this end facing your viewing end, which is at the bottom of the tube. Use the magnet to secure it, push it down, and then put the cap on. If you have a magnet with a screw on the end, make sure that when you put it in, you're viewing from this side so that screw is not visible and the black disc that you're looking at is this end. Place the magnet right next to the measuring lines on the tube so that the black disc is directly underneath those lines. Before you take your reading, just turn your tube up a few times to make sure that sample's nicely mixed, and also make sure that you're standing in light shade. You don't want to take your reading in full sunlight. Now bring your magnet up to the viewing end of the tube, which is the clear end. Bring it up to your eye, holding the tube nice and horizontal. Now if you don't have someone to help you, you can rest it on the bonnet of your car or on a tree trunk. Looking through, you're then going to move the magnet away from you until that black disc just disappears away into the murk. Come down and make a note of that number as your disappear value. Then move the magnet further away, bring it back up to your eye, and now bring the magnet towards you until that black disc just starts to reappear out of the murk. And then take a note of that number as your reappear number on your data sheet. We will then take the average of those two numbers, and that is your water clarity reading. Now you want to repeat that method 3 times and take the average of those 3 readings, each reading being a disappear and a reappear value that's been averaged. Now that you've collected your sample, make sure that you've recorded your date and time on your data sheet along with your measurements, and also that you've got really good site information. You can tip your sample out, and if you're moving to your next site, just check that your clarity tube's nice and clean before putting your next sample in, and always remember, wash your hands.